You're ready.
Medical words have no abbreviation. There are many others.
I'd like to call the April 7th of the meeting of the Maumelle City Council to order. Our first order of business is invocation and pledge of allegiance, and Alderman Anderson is going to lead us in that tonight. So if you'd all please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us this beautiful day to come before you and do the city's business, and I hope that we do this to your approval. Please be with all the men, women, and family that protect our beautiful country, and please help guide, guard, and direct us as we do the city's business. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Next item is special guests and announcements, and we were supposed to have some people with us tonight, but there was a death in the O'Neill family, and so they cannot be here tonight, and so they should be at our next council meeting to receive the key to the city. Next item is the approval of the minutes on March 17th regular meeting. All the council members have a copy of those minutes in their packet.
I move we approve them.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of March 17th. Is there a discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Next item is public comment. I've only got one public comment card tonight, and it lists the fire station, so I don't know exactly what they want to speak on. So we've got mayor's comments on fire station, and then we've got the master street plan. So I guess I will let them speak at this time because we really don't have an agenda item for the fire station, so it would be an item that's not on the agenda. So, Mr. Covey, if you would come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Carl Covey. I live at 3 Club Manor Drive. And my apologies for being off the agenda. I thought that was on the agenda. It's pretty difficult for me to make it to these meetings. Y'all meet kind of early for me. But I just wanted to speak on that particular location that y'all are considering for a fire station, and certainly come out opposing that location. I've always, we've lived on Club Manor now for 17 years. We lived down at 34 for about 6 and liked the street a lot, and rather than add on, we moved down the street. So it's a great spot, and we love that gazebo that was in this space that y'all are considering. I've always been surprised that it wasn't rebuilt. We've had scout events there, soccer practice there. I mean, that area is a real nice spot. It's green space, open space. I'm not sure how it's characterized, but what a tragedy to convert something like that into essentially commercial property. I mean, I feel as strongly about that as I do about overhead power lines. I mean, I don't want us to do something that seems to be more cost-effective or cheaper at the expense of the good of all of us. I mean, it's a lot cheaper to put overhead power lines, but my goodness, I don't want us to look like Walnut Boulevard, where I'm talking about. So, I would just say there are a lot of folks that aren't able to make it to the meetings to express how wonderful it is to have these spaces and this atmosphere and environment here. And I would certainly urge y'all to do everything you can to try and maintain and sustain that in that area. That's really all I have to say. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. And it was on the last council meeting's agenda, and it was tabled until the next council meeting. The vote on the resolution, it would be on the 21st.
Oh, I thought it was the 14th. I was trying to schedule it so I could make it all of these because, unfortunately, I enjoy talking about this. So it's 21st, not the 14th.
Yes, sir. Be 2 weeks from tonight. Yes, sir. All right.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
thank you for coming, though. Next item is the financial statement review, and that's done at the second meeting of each month. Next item is procedural motion. I need a motion from the floor that we read all resolutions and ordinances by title only.
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned second that the council read all resolutions and ordinances by title only. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. First item under unfinished business is the third reading of ordinance number 844, amending animal ownership and care fines and fees. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 844, an ordinance amending fines and fees concerning animal ownership and care in the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve Ordinance 844.
Second. It's been motioned and seconded that the council approve ordinance number 844. Is there a discussion on that motion? If not, Mr. Clerk, roll call vote.
Alderman Lewis.
Yes.
Alderman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Norris.
Yes.
Alderman Hogue.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderman Mosley.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item under unfinished business is the third reading of ordinance number 845 regarding construction and remodeling permits. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 845, an ordinance amending the requirements for applications for construction and remodeling permits in the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
Move we approve ordinance 845.
Second.
Been motioned second that the council approve ordinance number 845. Is there a discussion on that motion? Not. Mr. Clerk, roll call vote.
Alderman Hogue.
Yes.
Alderman Norris.
Yes.
Alderman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Lewis.
Yes.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderman Mosley.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is the second reading of ordinance number 846, amending a master street plan. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 846, an ordinance amending the master street plan for the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
No action is required on this item tonight. If there's no questions on it, we'll move on to the next item, which is the second reading of ordinance number 847, accepting dedication of streets and drainage. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
Ordinance of the City Council of the City.
I think you said second reading. Isn't it the first reading?
It's second reading.
Okay, I'm sorry.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 847, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets drainage in Phase 2 of the villages of New Bedford and Maumelle, Arkansas, upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
There's no questions on that one. It's also on second reading. It'll be on third reading at the next council meeting. Moving on to new business, we have the first reading of ordinance number 848, accepting dedication of streets and drainage. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 848, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets drainage in Phase 5 through 8 of Osage Hills in Maumelle, Arkansas, upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
Okay, this one is on first reading. If there's no other questions, it will move on to second reading at the next meeting. Moving pretty quick tonight.
Uh-oh, I messed us up.
Alderman Mosley? Well, I thought everybody was trying to get to see a basketball game tonight. I didn't know if that's what it was or not.
I guess I was looking at this map, and I'm trying to make. I'm having a little trouble understanding.
Okay.
I think I see Manitou on there,
Yes, sir.
and this is all things that will be. This is all development that will be on the right side. Will it tie into Maumelle Valley Estates? Is that?
It will eventually, but there's still another phase of Maumelle Valley Estates that has to build a section of Maumelle Valley for it to connect.
All right. Now the road that's eventually going to go down to the peninsula, does it come out of this area in some manner?
Well, it's not it's barely shown on this map. If you look where at the center of the page, you kind of see a T or not a T intersection, but a cross intersection right there. It's in the middle of a curve.
Okay.
That road that's going to the southwest right there is the road that goes. That's the other end of Maumelle Valley that will ultimately go to the peninsula property.
Okay.
So it's trying to see a lot number right there. Lot 80. It's right beside Lot 80.
Now that intersection's already in there.
That intersection is already there, and actually, this road is already Phase 2A and Phase 3 is also in.
Okay. All right.
So Manitou is completed all the way to the end of this map that you see. So this is only for Phase 5, 6, 7, and 8. Is what this is talking about dedication for.
All right.
And that includes that little cul-de-sac on the right as you're coming up the hill up Manitou. And then a portion of Maumelle Valley, and then a portion of Manitou Court, and a portion of War Eagle Point, I think is what it says Manitou on here, but it's actually War Eagle. Name of the street's War Eagle, so that's wrong. We need to get that corrected.
And it looks like maybe a water tower is going to be up there eventually.
There is land that Maumelle Water Management currently owns on that piece of property that's left out there as Tract 1.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right, that's all I need. Thank you very much.
Any other questions on the map or the ordinance? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the mayor's comments. The fire station property search. I have been looking at property and in Maumelle, in the area where the fire station was sited to go. I've also gone beyond that area to look at some properties, and I looked at about 6 properties just based on websites and that sort of thing, checking square footage prices, and got with the architects and to try to keep from redoing a schematic design. We don't have a final design on the fire station, but we have a schematic design on the fire station, and that would require approximately 250 to 300 foot width to have a drive that goes all the way around the building, basically, and then enters the bays through the rear to prevent a truck from having to back up. Basically, when it enters the front of the station, it would have to pull up and then back up, similar to what it has to do at Station 2 currently now. So try to prevent that. There's possibly 3 sites that might work in that area, and so what I'm asking the council tonight is to give me permission to start negotiations with some real estate agents to move forward on a possible site. The offer and acceptance may be signed by me, but it would not obligate the council to fund any monies or anything like that. That would come back to the council for their approval. Basically, I need to turn in an offer and then see if they counter it or something like that. But it would not be. It would clearly state in there that this must be approved by the council before we can move forward on that project. Alderman Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. You said that you had 3 sites, potential sites, that you would like to explore further. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, one of our concerns and that drew us to the present location or proposed location is the overlapping areas for the fire department.
That's correct.
Do the 3 sites that you're talking about, do they suit equally well with the overlap or non-overlap?
One of them does not.
Okay, or should we even consider that one then?
Well, and I I think, I've got a ranking on them, and I'm not going to tell you the properties because I don't necessarily want the real estate people to find that out. But but I think we've got to have a plan in place so that we might have to resort to Plan C. I hope we don't get to that point, but that would be basically there's 3 sites that it could fit on. Let me rephrase that question. Now, are they the best? Is one of those the best location? No, it is not. So. Yeah, as far as the overlap and the 1.5 mile driving distance, that is correct.
I asked that because after talking to certain people, and I'm trying to be secretive here so I don't get anybody in trouble. But
well, we're not being secretive. We're just not.
Well, you know what I mean.
I understand.
Some comments been made to land over by close to Regions Bank, behind the whatever that bank is now.
It's former NBA location.
Former NBA. And the way I understood it, that if we were to relocate it to that point, we would create a greater overlap with the current new fire station, and it would probably not be sufficient to cover the rest of Western Mall Mill. So I guess it's in that sense that I'm concerned about the location.
Right. No, and it would actually reduce the overlap, not make a greater overlap. It would reduce the overlap with the existing station.
Oh, really?
Yes, but it would, as you said, move it further away from the western side of Maumelle, and would cause a gap, basically, not an overlap in that area.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Johnson?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment on that. Hey, the worst coverage is the northern fire station. I mean, if you look at these circles, they cover less of Maumelle, and so any area back out here is going to improve our area. But you look at the north end, that's where the shortage is. Don't get me wrong. That was our own property, and that decision was made, and everything like that. But by the same token, we've got to be real careful of drawing circles and making sure that you're getting the best coverage, because you can see from that original circle, it's not the best coverage on the north end. Now, if we annex all the north, then, hey, it'd be the greatest decision we ever made. But that's a long ways away.
I agree.
Just my point.
Well, but there is possibility for growth to the north. There's not any possibility of growth to the south.
I agree with that.
Okay. So basically, the only action, and I don't know, Madam City Attorney, if it takes a motion or if the council is just okay with me going ahead and starting some negotiations. I would like to have something back at the next meeting is what is my goal, to have it at the next meeting. And you don't have to necessarily take any action at that time, but hopefully we can have that contract in the agenda and everything before we move forward.
I think a motion's in order.
Okay, all right.
I make a motion that you can proceed with negotiations and bring it back to us at the next meeting.
Second.
Sounds fine. Seconded.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor to allow the mayor to enter into negotiations on certain properties for siting on Fire Station number 2, but be sure to bring it back to the council for approval. Is there a discussion on that motion? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you very much. Next item is revised bond project survey and tentative schedule, and I've got a revised survey, I've got a timeline, and I've got a revised future cities projects. These were all passed out at the bond workshop, except for one thing. There is on the back page of the sheet that's stapled together is a revenue projection. Wrong, I think. Did you pass one to the? That's why I gave you extras over there. There's revenue projections for the indoor pool. I made this. Where's Mr. Rayburn? I did run it by him. he didn't want responsibility for it, I don't think, though. But basically what, and I'll tell you basically how this came about, is took the summer's revenue, the summer pool, the outdoor pool's revenue. It's operated about 3 months out of the year, so kind of said, okay, 4 times. All right, that's the basis for it. So I just want that to be very clear that that's how I came up with the basis for it. It's not exactly right. You know, I mean, individual memberships would have totaled $320,000 if I took 4 times. The one thing with that we don't have that we get a revenue from right now is the swim team. We don't have a revenue from that. So I looked at Cabot's revenue and Bryant's revenue and averaged those. It would have been $28,400. So I rounded to $30,000 on that one. So that's how that revenue came about. And when I included it in the survey, I listed it as $400,000. So, and that's not, I just round numbers more than anything else is the reason that was done. So, but what I do want to mention is that the survey has been updated per what we discussed the other night at the bond workshop. The question about where certain facilities would be located, and where I mean, like the underpass, overpass. There's 3 choices there, basically. I also added the line, please complete and return your survey by blank is there. So that's what the council needs to know. Based on the timeline, we really need to get this survey back by May the 15th. So we really need to get this out. And the reason May the 15th would give us then a couple of weeks to get it in. Your first council meeting is in June 2nd, I believe. I looked at that, June 2nd or 3rd. It's right. No, June's not on this calendar. It's very early in June. So it's the 2nd or 3rd of June, I believe is when it is. So it's very early. So that would give us up to like May the 30th to get the results tabulated and everything, because if we get them sent back paper copies, we're going to have to tabulate those results. Hopefully we can get some back online and save us a little bit of trouble on that. But that's why we need action to move forward with this no later than the next council meeting, I think, as far as approval on this survey. I've asked several times, if you see anything on it, send me something, tell me something, do something. But I haven't received anything other than the comments that we got the other day. So we really need those if we want to try to get this out as soon as possible. But this is all trying to get the election ordinance adopted on August the 18th. We have 70 days before the election. The election is November the 4th. And so that gave us a drop-dead date, I believe, of August the 26th. Yes, August the 26th. And so it has to be approved by the council by no later than August the 26th. Our regular scheduled meeting would be August the 18th. That's before that meeting. Alderman Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed under the Indoor Aquatic Center, and first of all, thank you for putting some kind of estimated revenue. I mean, it's just, thank you.
I just wanted to, I did it, but I wanted to know where I got my numbers from.
I know, and I understand we don't have a crystal ball.
Okay,
so
all right.
We don't live in a perfect world. Now, and this is a question.
Okay.
Do you think it would be appropriate? Well, let me back up a step. It was suggested at the workshop meeting that we attach a quarter-cent sales tax in order to ensure that we can meet the O&M expenses on this. If we, in fact, want to proceed with that, is that something that should be included in the survey?
Probably should be. I mean, if so that if you want everything out there, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wasn't, and like I say, I wasn't 100% sure. Alderman Lewis proposed it. I think he got some comments that it was a good idea, but I never got really a consensus that that was what the whole council wanted to do. I believe I did hear one person say they couldn't support that. So at least one, maybe more than that. So that's why it's not on here. But as I said, I don't have any qualms with amending this survey to include anything. And that's when I sat down the other night and said, okay, I'll try to come up with a revenue number. So on the pool, and so we can add that to it. I did add under there, and this was suggested. I said, would you pay an annual membership fee of $300 to $400 on the survey? Because that was also a question. I was concerned about putting a firm number in there, because then they would say, well, you've gone up on that firm number. We might still have to go up on the $400. So that's a...
Yeah. Now, that $300 to $400, that's for a membership to the community center and the aquatic center?
No, that's to the aquatic center only.
Okay.
The way it's on here. And if you want me to clarify that, I can do that.
No, okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Lewis?
I would have no issue with that question being on there. It might add a little bit more to the validity of asking that question to the community if they know that's on the table. But one thing I can promise you is that I've already had that conversation with Madam City Attorney. That ordinance asking for that sales tax question is already in the hopper and ready to go. And so we can ask that question certainly, but my position as an alderman is that question will not advance to the November ballot without a hearing for that sales tax question in this chamber. Now, it could get voted down. Okay. And again, just because I'm proposing that question, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to vote for it in November. But I see it as a responsible way to ensure that we have a safety net there in place should the revenue projections not be what they are and should the expenses be higher. But that will be, if there is a question before this council for the indoor pool, that sales tax question will be brought up at the same meeting.
I just believe in full disclosure,
Sure.
And if that's something we're considering,
Right, and I think that could be a good idea because our bond counsel had indicated to us that disclosure is everything here. And so not only do we need to, repeat that over and over again if that question goes further, but it wouldn't hurt to put it on the survey whatsoever. I don't know exactly how you'd word that. We'd have to kind of sit down and think that, but I have no problem with it being there.
Maybe as a separate line, you've got 4 questions here, yes or no, maybe another one. Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to support it with a $0.25?
I mean, at this point, I think it's important, and I'm not trying to nail anyone down tonight, but I think we as a council should probably make up our minds before we send this survey if we're really serious about that tax being attached. I'm absolutely certain about it because I see no other method to guarantee the revenue other than that. And so, to send it out and say, well, do you want all these things? Well, would you want it with a tax? Well, you might get a lot of people that will say no, but that doesn't change my mind about putting it on there. The two aren't separable in my eyes. So as a body, I think we would be sending a much more cohesive question to the people if we knew that going in right now. Or at least we had some sort of consensus. I don't know if that's possible, though.
And as I understood it, that question would be a part of the original ballot, so it would have to be on all 3 readings of the ordinance. So it'd be just like the rest of the questions. So it wouldn't be it'd be discussed at more than one meeting too.
Yes,
so yeah,
absolutely.
and be voted on at one basically. Right. Alderman Johnson.
Just a thought along those lines, and I totally agree that we need to know what we're doing and everything like that. But we're specifically tying this down to this one project. Well, the Parks Department is a big department, and there's a lot of things in the Parks Department that need to be done. Maybe we could tie the 0.25% to the Parks Department. What is that one they do with the Chamber of Commerce and all that?
Advertising and promotion.
Yeah, and that goes to the Parks Department, I think.
A portion of it can.
Portion of it, yeah. But anyway, maybe it's the Parks Department. Maybe it should be generalized that if revenues are needed for the project, then it would be funded out of a 0.25% sales tax somehow. I'm just throwing that out. You specifically tying it to that project. Now, what if they do well? What if they meet the mayor's perception or
better.
possibility.
Projections, yeah.
Yeah, projections. But they may be needed in another park area, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think the other question is, you may meet it the first year because it's new and everybody joins, but then in subsequent years you may not have the membership there.
Yeah.
On that line, if we did have a year where, let's say, we bring in $550,000 from the tax, and our expenses that year, net are only $300,000, would that money automatically fall to Parks and Rec as part of our financial practices?
Probably so.
So
Based on the language in the ordinance, that's what it would be based on.
there you have it.
Okay, that answers my question.
Thank you. Alderman Hogue?
I actually think that if we're going to have the aquatic center, we're going to have a mechanism to fund it. I spoke with several people who are supporting the center, and they would support the tax. So I feel like maybe that's an indication that the tax would be supported. If we're going to send this survey out, I certainly think we need to put a line in there and ask if they would support the tax.
Okay.
Because they might support it, and then when we had to put the tax on, they might not. I just feel like that they need to know what they're supporting. I'd like to see the line item on there for the tax.
Okay. All right. Alderman Mosley?
I'm gonna put my cards on the table about the whole project here. I've put a lot of thought into this. I've looked at all the projects and everything, and I was very interested in getting the mayor's list of future projects, and I just have to say that I'm really not in favor of even doing a bond election or an extension at this point. I mean, we're just 1 year into an 8-year extension of the 6.6 mil property tax, and we've got 3 big projects we're working on right now, and there could be 3 to 5 more. It just seems like we've got a lot of things in the hopper, and maybe we should be kind of finishing up what we've already got going here before we go flying along. I'd feel much more comfortable waiting 2 to 4 years and looking at these things and maybe including some of the items the mayor had here. We will know more about the I-40 interchange connection a couple of years from now, and what kind of roads might be necessary. I just hate to get mortgaged to the hilt on the 6.6 mil in case we really have some project we need to finance. So I'm probably going to not be voting to pass anything along as we go here, but I just wanted to let everybody know what my thoughts are. And if other people think the way I do, then this is probably a good time to kind of put the damper on it, because a lot of work's gone into this, and there's still a lot more work to go. So anyway, that's the way I feel about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Mosley. Alderman Johnson?
Just a question. Are you not concerned about what the people think? I mean, you're saying your thoughts, but we haven't even polled the people. We don't. Hey, they may reject it. Let's listen to the people, and then we got to make a big decision. Can we afford it and all that? I have no problem with what you said, but by the same token, you don't even want the people's input, I guess.
Well, to answer that, I think we're probably in the best position to be good stewards of what the city finances are here on the city council. If we don't think this is a good time for a bond election, then I don't think we should leave it up to the people, because there's a lot of people that do want these projects, but on the other, to me, it's just not the right time, and we're being charged with being the responsible people here in Maumelle, and we shouldn't just go with whatever somebody wants.
But we have the ability to do these projects without raising the taxes of the people, per se. Now, you can say, yeah, but we could pay it off, but then you got to go through a process, if you ever want to get it again, trying to get it back together.
I mean, like this one isn't going to expire till 2020. It's not like it's going to expire next year or the next. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
That's correct.
So, I mean, we've still got
7+ years now. It was started in 2013. So, yeah.
We're 1 year into an 8-year deal. And I just think what we're doing here is we'll be foregoing possible other projects 2 to 4 years from now if we dive into all these. And a lot of these are wants as opposed to needs. And I'm just not that comfortable with another bond project. Thank you. But I understand what you're saying, Alderman Johnson. Thanks.
Alderman Lewis?
What is the right answer there? I do think we'd be better served to look at the results of the survey once they come back. It doesn't, I think us having that dialogue with the community is certainly going to be helpful. One thing I think we do need to be mindful of is we are coming, at least there appears to be the appearance that we are coming out of some economic doldrums, and there's finally the chance to sort of come out of this. Last year we had in the 40s, I think, on total new home starts in Maumelle. That is scary low when you look at, yes, sir?
76.
Is that that was permits on new homes? Okay, yeah. 76 last year, and so that is still very, very low when you compare that to 2007, 2008, back in that era. Now we seem to be coming out of this. We are looking forward, at least if we're following this document right here. I hope we are looking forward. And what sets us up to that? What is the linchpin to get us on that wave once the economy starts to pick up? And offering amenities, you can call them wants, and I think that's not necessarily inappropriate to label them that, but there are also amenities that help to improve the quality of life of the citizens that you have, but also to attract as well. Now, if we're attracting, the question might be is where are we going to put them? Because we do have, a bit of a land shortage right now. And so, the right answer, I don't think it's total austerity where you say no to all of them. But there has to be a pragmatic approach. I think we'll have that discussion. Certainly, I think in June, once we've got the results of the survey and we've all reviewed them, to me, I think it's, somewhere in between. And we've got to decide what can we do right now to better our community, to ride that economic wave, and to be, responsive to the needs of our citizens and the wants. And also, what can we do to still save a little bit of money behind, because there are going to be needs. There's going to be possibilities that we're going to have to look to grow to the north for future annexations, possibly for, utility setups and that sort of thing. So this is the process we have, and I think we'll find that somewhere in between. I would like to get this survey out sooner rather than later. Let's just ask this question, is there any need for us to talk about this survey for one more meeting?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, I am still concerned with disclosing the quarter.
We can.
No, I say we. I don't have
that.
We can make that motion tonight to go forward with that stipulation.
Yeah,
and that's not an issue either. One thing that I will say, and just because when you send this out, you want to get the most valid return that you can that tells you the most information. If you put that on there, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Will you pay for this? Yes, 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 no. And you could see a pretty big disparity between the yeses and then the nos on that question. Now, in my mind, this thing doesn't go past without that. So maybe that is your answer. But in the interest of disclosure, I'll ask one more time, would it be better that we just go ahead now as a council and say, yes, this is a package deal and that tax will be part of this? What is the point of separating it if we all feel that way? Or at least if most of us feel that way?
I agree.
I totally agree, too. I feel like it's just a package deal, and then just disclose it as a package deal.
Does that need to be in the form of a motion?
Yes. Yeah.
And I make that motion.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second that the half-cent sales tax be a part of the any questions related to the indoor aquatic center. I'm sorry, quarter cent.
I may have said half.
Yeah,
I did.
All right.
Mr. Sandlin's looking at me saying, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, quarter cent. All right. Let me. I'd written down half also.
Woo!
So yeah. All right. Yeah. We just gained $500,000 real quick. All right. So a quarter cent sales tax.
Yes, sir.
Yes. All right. I've got lights on. Is it on the question that we have before us? is yours, Alderman Kelly, also.
I just want to make a comment. You know, I agree. We need to get the survey out right away and let the public tell us what they want.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, though, bond prices have never been cheaper than they are and have been the last couple of years.
Right.
So if the public decides they want these projects, then I think we need to go forward, because 5 years down the road, they may be double what the cost is now. So being good stewards of our money, we need to also think about the future. That's all I think.
Alderman Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, with respect to the current motion that's on the floor, I don't have a problem with that, but then again, there is something I do have a problem with. I don't know that we need to make that decision right now. I would still be curious to hear, if we had a separate line item question here, I would like to hear what the public says about that. And we might find a disparity in numbers there that says, or we might find an agreement in numbers, and then we have support for making the decision rather than just arbitrarily making the decision right now. I mean, what's to be gained by not waiting until the next meeting?
I thought the motion included adding that to it, though, right?
It did.
It did, but I think the motion was, and maybe I misunderstood, I thought the motion was that we as city council would make it an all or nothing quarter-cent sales tax. Is that...
Well, I didn't make the motion. It might be better posed to Alderman Hogue.
But here's the...
Well, I meant for it to be an all or nothing.
And that's what I seconded.
Okay. Well, I'm
we
not...
need to have the funded vehicle in place to support the aquatic center.
I agree with that. But I'm wondering if it's...
But here, hold on for just a second, though. You're going to see an ordinance that the actual ballot, you're going to have to vote on that. This is not binding you to anything other than the council feels right now, based on the survey we're going to send out, that you think it's prudent that a quarter-cent sales tax be there to cover the O&M is what I'm hearing, I think.
Yeah.
But you will have another vote that you will have to take in order to make that go on the ballot. And then it's up to the people. I mean, it's up to the people to vote for it or against it. But then the council, if one of them fails, and let's say the pool passes, the question for the pool with the millage passes, but the sales tax fails, that's when the council then would have to say, we can't do it. I mean, that's what they would have to do.
Already.
You could, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the disclosure way up front.
Right. If they both don't pass, the project doesn't go forward.
And not to speak for their motion, but in my eyes, what I suggested there was that in that question, do you support this project? Somewhere in that language in there, it stipulates that there will be a quarter-cent sales tax attached to this process. That's, in my mind, what I believe Alderman Hogue had indicated. And the question I would ask, and I understand you're saying, well, are we certain we want to do that right now? Is there a scenario, Alderman Saunders, where you would swing without that net?
No, but I would feel more comfortable if we had a survey, if we had a separate line item question here, would you support the aquatic center if it was attached to a 0.25%? And I saw the numbers come back in overwhelmingly saying yes. Then now we have support for what we're doing.
Okay. I think I understand your point.
I even think that it can be worded that way. It says right here, do you support this project? Do they have the ability to say yes or no? Would you use the facility if constructed? Then down on somewhere in there say, would you support a 1/4 sales tax for O&M for this project? You're going to be able to see right there if they say yes, they support this project, but no, they do not support the tax. We're going to know right there. I mean, I think that's going to take care of your concerns.
Yes. No, that would be an addition.
Well, it will, and it's really not that scenario that I'm concerned with. It's just adding, rather than us arbitrarily making a decision that the only way we're going to include an aquatic center on the ballot is if it does include a 0.25%.
And I might feel that way. Saying that in this survey, and we're, when we come back and all of us discuss the results of the survey, that's when the ultimate decision is going to be made whether we do or whether we not. Even though I think that we need that 0.25% sales tax, Alderman Lewis is even more concerned about it probably than me. I don't have to make that decision tonight, or I don't have to make that decision when this survey comes back.
I thought that was
I make that Well, I made that motion to put it on here.
Put it on.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood then.
That still doesn't mean that I'm going to vote. That's the way I feel in August or whenever it is we get ready. But we have to have that tax. I think it has to be on there to let the people know that we're considering it. They need to know if they vote for it that we're looking at a 1/4-cent sales tax for the O&M.
Well, I misunderstood the motion. I thought if it's to put it on here, yes, I agree.
It absolutely is for here. It has nothing to do with the when we get to the ordinance.
Okay. Okay.
Just for clarification, the only thing on the table for discussion or adoption tonight is the survey.
Right.
Okay.
The survey, when the survey comes back, even if it's 100% in favor, the city council will still have to adopt an ordinance for the bond election and for any sales tax election. Those will be separate, although they may track at the same time. They're going to be separate ordinances. So, I don't want you to be concerned that you're doing something tonight that you won't have an opportunity to consider again. You'll have not only another opportunity, but you'll have 3 readings of each one of those ordinances after the survey comes back. And then beyond that, you have the ultimate assurance that the people will do what the people desire to do, and so regardless of if you're just putting the only thing you're voting for is to put the election out there. You're not making the decision on whether or not it will be actually adopted.
Okay, I'm happy.
Discussion.
Yeah, I would like to say something.
Okay, Alderman Lewis.
And I think it's all a matter sometimes. This is the process. You weed through some of the semantics of everything. And once you explained it that second time, Alderman Saunders, I think I understood it perfectly, which is, let's have that question separately on there within that column so we kind of know everybody's going to put their money where their mouth is. And if you have a lot of people who are going different ways and you sort of sense, is there really that much concrete support perhaps? And the one thing I'll say, one more thing about this, is that I think, and this is just in my eyes, whether you want the pool or you don't want the pool, I think that this is the perfect compromise to that. And what I mean by that is if you want it, here's the opportunity possibly, and I'm not saying we're going to approve it. I don't even know if I'm going to still vote to put it on the ballot. But if you like it, then here it's going to be its chance to sink or swim. We'll put it on there. We'll see what happens. And those people that have wanted it for so long finally will have that opportunity to say, okay, you believe in it, here's where it goes. Now, on the other hand, if you don't want the pool, you have a chance to rally against it as well. I will say, if you look into the election tea leaves, this is not a good year to have any kind of tax question on the ballot. We've seen a millage question that went down in flames. We've seen that happen in other counties as well recently. This is a very austere midterm election voting crowd out there. It could be a rough year for that as well. So all things to sort of take into consideration. But, perhaps we put it out there. Maybe we don't. We'll have that discussion.
Thank you, Alderman Lewis. Alderman Johnson.
Well, basically, following up what he said to an extent, the 8 of us is going to be the decision makers per se when it's all boils down. Well, hey, you look at your budget numbers, look at your projections, and saying, what if we build this thing and we can't fund it? Where do we go then? There we got a $7 million project out there and we can't even fund it. And you tell me between now and 2011, we're going to have excess funds? Look at your budget. Look at your projections. We're not going to have any excess funds. If we don't get some kind of pickup to guarantee it, we're going out on a limb. You wouldn't do it for your family. You wouldn't go if you had a raise coming. You'd wait till you got that raise before you did something. And I think this is what we're looking at to make sure that we put $7 million in a project that we can pay for the function of it. Because the worst thing to do is come up and be $200,000 of short of funding it. And that's the 8 of our decisions, because that's where we step in the ring then. Big time.
Thank you, Alderman Johnson. Alderman Norris.
I believe the motion has morphed a little bit since it was first introduced. If we could have that restated.
I was going to say, I don't think it can't morph, actually, unless it's amended. So it should be the same question, just the survey. That's the only
Well, I don't believe that was the original motion.
Well, I'm going to ask the original
Okay.
person who made the
I'm not
motion
exactly
to.
sure how to get this
All right.
out there, but my intention was to put on the survey the question: would you support a 1/4-cent sales tax to fund O&M if we build the aquatic center?
Okay. Who had the second on
I
that?
did.
You did.
That's the way I understand.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Does that answer your question, Alderman Norris?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on that motion? Alderman Mosley? Okay. All right. Do you want to speak later? I'll leave. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. All right. We have a question before the council, and the motion's been made to add a separate line item under the portion on the survey of under the indoor aquatic center. That would you support a 1/4-cent sales tax to cover operation and maintenance? I've scribbled through it. It's hard to read now.
Sorry. Janine, you'll have to keep him straight.
We'll do it.
You will see this before it actually goes out. I promise you that. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signal by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Okay, is there anything else that, and this is under mayor's comments, but is there anything else we need to discuss? I do want to say one thing on the future city projects. I added the 3 that were mentioned at the bond workshop the other night: Parkland Entertainment District and Town Square Center for possible land purchases. That's the only amendment that's been made to that project list. Alderman Lewis.
We had the discussion too at our bond council meeting, or our bond workshop meeting, excuse me, whatever we're calling it these days. We had that discussion also about possibility of combining 2 or 3 projects into, or possibly 4 in one location, one that's already guaranteed to be built, being the fire station, but possibly combining them in a mutual area. And Mr. Mayor and I sat down and visited the other day. I don't know if, just to put it out there before the council, I had asked Mr. Mayor if we would look into perhaps some scenarios to where we could do that, perhaps talk to some architects about a possibility of looking at that. And I just wanted to see if that is something also that the other aldermen are in favor of, just to make sure that I'm not sending the mayor down a rat hole and everybody else is saying, no, I don't like that. So,
Alderman Mosley.
Yeah, I mentioned the other night, I thought that was an intriguing idea, and I would hope that we'd give it thought in the proper manner. I don't know with the way this is on a fast bus here. I don't know if it'll all happen, but that'd be another good reason to put this off for another 2 or 4 years if I can start recruiting folks to think like me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Mosley. Alderman Anderson?
Yeah, I totally support the idea. I think that's really outside of the box thinking. I think it's a great idea, and I mean, it can't hurt to look into it. And I wish I would have came up with the idea, actually.
Thank you. Alderman Hogue?
Actually, the building he had as an example was great. I think I heard someone say last night, were we to do that, it would be like $18 million for that one facility. Did I hear that?
I don't know if you did or not. I don't know. Where'd you hear that?
Which is at the bond workshop.
Oh, you said last night. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, at the bond workshop.
I don't remember that number being bantied about. Now, the building, the photograph of that building, I might have said the actual cost because you were sitting next to me. The actual cost of that building was that much, but obviously you're going to scale it to an appropriate level.
It sounds good and it looked good, but I'm afraid that if we do that thing, it will take every bit of the bond money that we have to work with.
And I wouldn't even chance to venture a price on it right now. I do know that if you do a multi-story building, you have to do extra foundation, and your beams have to be bigger than if you do a one-story facility and that sort of thing. I
was also wondering in that specific location, if we do put the fire station there, and then I think that would leave about 4 acres, would that actually leave enough parking spaces after the footprint of the building for the 3 facilities.
And that's why Alderman Lewis has kind of asked, maybe we need an architect to look at it and give us their opinion.
I don't have a problem with them looking at it, but I am a little bit leery of being able to do it.
You just go by the eyeball test. I mean, hey, I'm not an architect. I can't tell you how big and the parking needs and everything, even the cost per se. I do know this. If you combine all those projects together, it was about 10 point something million. You know, perhaps if you get something that's even a bigger attraction piece in that 11 million, you know, 10 to $12 million range, maybe. I don't know. The only thing about that scenario is if you like that idea, there's no way you can do the pool and those at the same time. But it does put a lot together, and it's the only plan right now that gets us to where we can sell this property that we're sitting on right now as well. So, something to think about.
Alderman Saunders.
First off, I compliment you, Alderman Lewis. I'm all into thinking outside the box, okay? And you certainly did that. And I agree with Alderman Mosley. It's an intriguing idea. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I am a little concerned with that particular location, because what we are doing, if we were to choose that particular location, is we're kind of making that the town center, and I don't think that's a real good spot for the town center. It's kind of trapped right in there in that little corner between Valencia Residential and Kroger, and it doesn't give space for the town center to grow. If it was in the middle of Track D, that's different, you know. So maybe we might consider another location too. So, but it is an intriguing idea. That's all I've got to say.
Alderman Norris.
I'm concerned with how that fits in with our current regime or our current track with the bond proposals. Is that, you know, all these other ones we're about to send a survey out, and if we have this other idea, are we suggesting adding another, you know, paragraph here, or is this something that's even that would even be possible to get on this ballot because it hasn't gone through the entire process? Or I just want to know, what do we've got an idea that may or may not be good. It definitely is interesting, and so if we want to follow that, how do we incorporate that into our current system? Does anyone know?
My concern with that is I don't think we have enough time to get enough information to add it to this survey. So that's going to be an issue. Just because to get questions from an architect, get an estimated amount and all that, I think the survey is going to have to be mailed out by then. So, yeah. So that's my concern with trying to do that now. All right. We do have a question on the floor, though, on one item. I want to revert back if we can. Or did we pass that? No, I didn't think we did. All right. Before we get another amendment, and that's what I was afraid was about to happen, but we have a motion on the floor to add a line item to the survey. We got that. We voted on that? Okay, all right, good then. Okay, all right, I'm good then. All right, sorry. I lost track. I didn't write it down that we voted on it. All right.
One thing I would add to answer your question is there reaches a point, and Alderman Mosley touched on this earlier, where you are good stewards and you are elected for a purpose, and that is to sort of vet some of these ideas and processes. And sure, it's a fast-moving bus, but I like to think this is a city that's moved quickly since it founded. And I will say that we'll judge the results of the survey based on the wants and the needs of this community, whether it's a senior center or an event center, and look at this in the greater context. And if we're seeing a heavy buy-in for 2 or 3 of these and the chance to do a cost savings, then maybe it's worth taking a look at. And as to possible town centers and everything, again, I'm going largely by this document here. And are there ideas about Track D that I've got? Sure. If you'd like to talk with me about them, Alderman Saunders, I'd be more than happy to visit with you. But perhaps in conjunction with, like you said, the park, Track D, our biggest retailer in our community, and then right in there with the community center, there's a lot of things about it that could work possibly. So.
I feel like that Track D might be be a good idea too. You know what you're talking on. I've always hoped that Track D could be something like Santa Fe, New Mexico, where maybe you have your city hall and you have a town square with a bandstand surrounded by retail shops and things like that. That to me would be the ideal town center for Maumelle. And again, that's one of the reasons I hate to rush ahead on some of these things if it would work in that direction at some point. I'd hate to forego that opportunity. Thank you.
Okay.
One small comment.
Alderman Johnson.
Yeah, just following that up. There are some items here, though, that are just absolutely needed and everything. You know, we need to move along on some of them, and we'll find out from the people which those are. You know, hey, the ballparks. You know, I don't think there's anybody going to fight over the ballparks and the need for them and everything like that. So, you know, I don't worry about the future, but by the same token, we have some things that could have an immediate impact on our city. Yep.
Okay. All right. On the survey, I'm going to make some revisions to it. I'm going to run it back by the council so they can see it before it goes out. I'm going to check with our distributor and see what dates they can work this in and get it out to. And then before I send it back, because basically I'm going to ask them to return their survey, and then it may shorten our time frame. But my goal is to have this back and then tabulated by the first meeting in June to the City Council. So the May 15th may slide slightly just because to get it mailed out and everything and give people adequate time, which I think it's a short time period. I think 2 weeks is plenty of time for them to have it, because if it lays there too long, they're going to forget about it anyway and not mail it back. But if we can't get it out till May the 5th, it may slide till May the 19th or something like that to get it back to us. Then the time frame is on City Hall to get it tabulated in order for the meeting on June 1st or June 3rd, whatever that date is.
We are still talking about just one page, front and back?
Yes, that's the plan, yes. Yeah. We may have to change font again if we add any more margins and font and anything else, but yeah. And then they may add pages when they mail it back. That's happened in the past too.
Do the margins and not the fonts.
Okay. All right. We will do our best. The margins have already been reduced a little bit to try to fit it on there. All right. So I will get this done. I'll try to get it out to y'all this week and then get your approval before it goes out. Next item under Mayor's comments is Easter egg hunt, April the 19th at 9 a.m. at the Rolling Oaks soccer complex. In case of rain, it will be moved to the community center at 9:30. Easter sunrise service will be April the 20th at 6:45 a.m. at the amphitheater at Lake Willistine. So we're going to have pretty weather that day, we hope. But it's being supported again by the Maumelle Methodist Church, and Freedom Baptist is also a sponsor of that event this year. So hope to have a lot of people come out for that. The city and this isn't on your item, but I felt like I needed to mention it. The city and the Maumelle Chamber hosted a job fair last Friday at the Maumelle Community Center, and we had 220 attendees with 24 businesses looking for employees. And that wasn't as many attendees as we had 2 years ago when we did one, but the businesses told us they liked it better a little bit, and people mentioned it because it gave them more time one-on-one with the applicants. Basically, they got a feel for them, even talking to them right there, whether they were a good candidate for the positions they had available. Because last time there were so many people, basically they were just handing out applications and taking them back, and they didn't get a chance to have one-on-one conversation. But Miss Judy Keller with the Community Economic Development Office, Courtney Dunn, my assistant, helped with that. Megan helped with that. And they had lots of help. And then Tara and Alicia from the Chamber were heavily involved in that also. So they did a great job on that Friday. The state supported us real well on that also with the governor's dislocated workforce out there. And they had their workforce services truck. They could help do resumes, print off more copies and everything. The only other thing I want to mention real quick, in conjunction with job fairs, Sky Zone is having a job fair next Thursday afternoon at the Jess Odom Community Center from 3:30 to 6:30. They're mainly looking for part-time individuals, 15 to 25 hours per week. So if you've got some young people looking for some jobs or something like that. But April the 10th, Thursday, 3:30 to 6:30. That's all the comments I have. Next item is Planning Commission report, and Alderman Mosley has that.
Yes, I do. We had the Planning Committee, or Planning Commission meeting. I guess it was 2 weeks after about March 27th, I guess. And there was only one item. They were addressing the idea of putting. Right now, there's not the ability to have a car wash here in Maumelle. The ones we have two here, and one of them came in under the grandfather clause, and the other one came in, I guess, as an automotive thing. But that was deemed not really the proper way to do it. So they're going to be sending us an ordinance, maybe at the next meeting, to approve the ability to have a car wash by conditional use in the C1, C2. PCD, PRD areas, and then by right in C3, C4 areas. So it was modeled after kind of what North Little Rock and Little Rock were doing, I think.
And you will see that on the next council meeting. That comes on to the council for the approvals. Thank you, Alderman Mosley. Alderman's comments? Alderman Johnson?
There was an interesting article in the paper this morning about fire station and fire station ratings, and one of the ones that popped into my mind, and I'd like to ask that the fire chief come back and give us some kind of report. It's my understanding that we were a 3 for many, many years. We built a brand new fire station. We didn't become a 2. It's my understanding there's not many 2s and many 1s in Arkansas. I'd like to know how many there are, or I think the council should know how many there are, what process. So we're going to build another fire station. If we're still a 3 and we're out promising people reduced insurance, and that doesn't happen, it makes us look really bad. Now, I know he can't guarantee what that board or whoever it is going to say, but I think we ought to have some kind of direction, because if we're promising the people less insurance costs, then we ought to be able to.
Well, nobody's promising less insurance. That has not been said at all.
So we're a 3 now. So we don't. If we become a 2, we won't save money.
Well, yeah. If you become a 2, you will save money. But nobody has said by building this fire station we will move to a 2.
Well, what assurance? In other words, why build it if we're already a 3?
Because you could go to a 4.
You could go to a 4?
Absolutely.
How much would it cost?
To go to a 4?
No. And hey, I know, and that's all I'm asking. Maybe we ought to have some direction for someone that has the knowledge so that we know what's going on.
But if you read that article today, it mainly talked about volunteer stations. Yeah. Is what it was mainly talking about. And it was talking about 9 and 10 ratings. Yes. Is what it was talking about. That a lot of the cities in Arkansas with volunteer small departments, that's where they're at. And it's even hard to get insurance in those. So when they can go to a paid staff and that sort of thing, that can reduce theirs. But I'll have Chief Payne work on something to give you some specifics maybe on what it takes. But it's no one has said because this station is being built that would automatically reduce the ISO rating.
I bet the people have the perception it will. But I
don't know how they've gotten that, because that's not been mentioned at all. So until this conversation just now. Alderman Kelly?
Just one comment. I've read similar articles. I read one this morning, as a matter of fact, wasn't in the same paper. And basically what has happened is the National Fire Protection Association, which is one standard, NFPA, and ISO, which is the insurance standard, they have combined a standard, and that's going to be one standard for all.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's the big change that's going on right now. And I believe that I think that standard starts being adopted here in Arkansas 1 July. Is that correct, Chief? So there's more to this, but the danger, the concern I have as a citizen and as an alderman, is that our fire rating moved from a 3 to a 4.
Mm-hmm.
Guarantee you prices will go up.
Yep.
Now there's always a possibility we can go from a 3 to a 2, and that would help us. But that's the big change, is the standard itself has changed. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Kelly. Alderman Mosley?
Yeah, I've had people ask me, and I thought I'd just ask for a quick clarification as far as parks and their hours. And there's most of our parks have gates on them. Do we actually lock the gates at closing time, or do we just say they're closed and then people are in trouble if they're still in there?
They're just closed, and then they will be arrested if they're in there, be given a citation. And the reason we've done that is at the recommendation of the police department. If they have to get out and unlock a gate, it allows people the chance to get away, basically, because some people don't always drive in there; they walk in there. If the police are able to just drive into the gates and then see them, then they can. It's easier for the police to witness the activity that's being done in there. Now, we don't. The only place that I know that we have gates, and Philip, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the parking lots we've got them at the Rolling Oaks Soccer Complex and then at Park on the River. Now, we've got gates that we can lock the baseball fields and the softball fields. But as far as drive-through traffic, we can't lock up those gates. Philip?
The baseball complex has one gate on Town Hall, but it doesn't on the other side. It used to, but it got...
Okay, all right.
But we never did, like I said, we never did really lock that, but we do lock the fields.
Okay, so we don't really lock the gates then. Is Park
on the River, it does get locked.
And that is considered a park, is that
That
right?
is considered a park, yes. Yes.
And Park on the River does get locked?
Yes. It was supposed to be getting locked. It wasn't always getting locked, but we've worked on that. It's getting locked, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Because it's in a very secluded area and they can get to and be out of sight of a lot of people down there. The other parks are predominantly in more traveled areas.
All right, thank you.
But it's still a violation if you're in the park, and I believe the hours, we just changed that. Is it 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
I believe that's correct.
I believe that's the hours of the park. And we can verify that, but I believe those are it.
One of the questions at one time on that was, what if a fisherman's down in the river and everything, he's got his boat in and everything, and we lock it, how does he get out and everything? I guess he'd have to call the police department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other alderman's comments? Madam City Attorney?
No, sir.
Mr. City Clerk?
I would just note the vacancy in the Civil Service Commission and the Charter School Board coming up.
Okay, if there's no other items, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned second that the council adjourn. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Yes, saying yes.
Both.
Any opposed, say no. Man, I hadn't done that in a while.
I was thinking earlier about, the fire station.
Who was it that's doing the job fair?